Hi, Kim Rayner here from All About Spirits Life After Cancer, and I want to welcome you today to episode 47 of Life After Cancer. And I can't believe this is the 47th episode already. I've been doing this for almost a year every Monday, which seems crazy to me. But anyways, when you get diagnosed with cancer, life really throws you a curveball. It impacts everything from your physical life to your relationship with people and friends and family and your work life and sometimes your spiritual life. And when I was going through my active cancer treatment, I was looking for support and I wasn't able to find the kind of support that I was looking for. So I created Life After Cancer to give people exactly the kind of support that I was looking for and couldn't find. Hi, Courtney. Thanks for joining today. So today's episode is the third episode in a three-part series called Prayer, Meditation, and Surviving Cancer. So today is the surviving cancer episode. And what I have come to believe, based on my experience, is that surviving cancer comes down to learning how to deal with stress, learning how to deal with loss and suffering and grief and change. And in order to survive cancer and really move beyond surviving to thriving, you need to feel those feelings to be able to heal from them. And, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, who discovered and wrote about the 5 stages of grieving, she talked about denial and anger and bargaining and depression, and then finally getting to the place of acceptance. And until we get to the place of acceptance, it's really hard for us to move beyond merely surviving to the thriving part. And we kind of push against culture in a lot of ways. Our culture teaches us to ignore our feelings and to not feel what we're feeling. And it starts out when we're really young, when we fall and we scrape our knee. Our family says, don't cry. And it's like, well, I feel like it's appropriate to cry when I scrape my knee because it hurts. And so from a really early point on, we're taught to not feel our feelings. And then we're also taught to create stories around what happens. And a really easy way for us to take a look at that in our lives is to look at how we move from relationship to relationship. If we don't heal the feelings of one relationship, we take the baggage from that relationship into the next relationship, and we react to things that people say as if it was the original person that caused the wound or the offense. And the new person saying that stuff might not have any of the same inclinations. So there's a way that we carry baggage with us, and that happens in all aspects of our lives. And in order for us to really get closure and to transform and to move beyond surviving, we have to feel the feelings. Otherwise, we're going to carry them around. So we bring the new yuck to our relationships. We get stuck in the stories. We stuff our feelings. And we get trapped in the, how could they? And why did this happen? And how did that happen? And it really isn't any different when we're dealing with our bodies, when we're dealing with physical illness. We get stuck in the baggage of our past there too. We start asking ourselves questions like, why did this happen to me? Or we get stuck in the story of our prognosis. Or we get stuck in... Oh, hey, Nick, thanks for joining today. We get stuck in the story of our prognosis, and then we start telling that story. And every time we retell it, we add more energy to it. We reaffirm it, and we make it more concrete and more real. And that's not helpful to us as human beings trying to survive and trying to move on beyond the surviving. So in order to get past the just feeling of existing, right? We want to feel the sadness. We want to clear out those thoughts. We want to release the energy that's attached to those thoughts. Otherwise, we get stuck in reaction mode. We get stuck in being trapped. We just get stuck in the pattern that we've been stuck in. And then we operate our lives from a defensive posture. And we're dealing with coping strategies. And we don't ever get to be in the position where where we're creating what's happening in our lives, where we become the co-creator. We become the energy force beyond or behind what's going to happen in our lives. So really, surviving is about clearing the past. It's about feeling all of the feelings. It's about, hey, Mike, thanks for joining today. It's about feeling the feelings, feeling the good feelings, feeling the ways that we've survived and we've thrived and we've moved beyond. But it's also about feeling the sadness and the scare and the hurt and the fear and allowing those feelings to be a part of our existence. And until we feel those feelings, until we actually allow them permission to be in our experience, we don't really ever get to heal from them. And that too, it goes against what we were taught. And when we're dealing with being sick or healing from cancer, so often we hear people say things like, "Oh, they look so strong. They're doing this so strong, and they're so brave, and they're so courageous." And on the inside, they might really feel like a quivering mass of jelly. I know that was my experience a lot. And it took so much energy to stuff those feelings. It took so much energy for me to suppress what was going on inside of me. And that was energy that I really would have been better served using for healing. So, we've been trained and taught to abandon ourselves and to abandon our feelings. And we get rewarded for abandoning ourselves by acceptance of our peers and by people giving us, what they think is positive encouragement. But the cost of that sometimes is betrayal of our body and betrayal of our emotions and betrayal of ourselves. We pretend that we're something we're not, and that's not helpful in the healing process. And D.W. Winnicott says, "We feel safer with false stories than we do in our own bodies." And that's really the truth. When we start to get anxious, or we start to get fearful, or we start to get stressed about things that are going on in our lives, our tendency is to buck it up, fake it till we make it, put on a strong face, pretend that everything's okay, and at all costs, don't let anybody see what's really going on. And I'm not suggesting that you walk around the world with a big gaping wound and bleeding over anybody's shoes who will listen to you, but I go back to things that I've said over and over again. I strongly encourage people to find the places, to find the 5 people in their lives who they are completely safe to be who they are with, no matter what, the good, the bad, the ugly, warts and all, to find those 5 people. And because you need a place to share that stuff. And when we're starting to deal or look at how do we move beyond the discomfort and the negative feelings, how do we get into the space where we can start to feel them, where we can actually start to navigate them? One of the first things that we have to do is find a way to be comfortable or to be able to even sit with those feelings in our body. So when we start to perpetuate the story, when we start to continue talking about, how awful things are, or how bad my prognosis is, or how horrible and awful I feel, that doesn't help bring us closure. That keeps us stuck in the problem. It keeps us stuck there. So how do you find the balance between allowing myself to feel those feelings and not perpetuating the problem? And my invitation to you is to start really by figuring out how this stuff resonates in your body. Where do you feel these uncomfortable feelings in your body? And to start to do that, sorry for the wiggles, to start to be able to do that, my invitation to you is to sit really still and to when you're sitting still in that quiet space, listen to the thoughts that are going on in your mind. And notice, where are those things happening in your body? Where do you feel them? When you feel, whoops, I'm throwing things on the ground. Where do you feel those negative emotions? Do you feel a constriction in your chest? Excuse me, I'm going to have a coughing fit. I have allergies and they're kicking up, so hang on a second. This is the price you pay when you do live video. Ah, so where do you feel those feelings in your body? Do you feel a tightening in your chest? Do you feel constriction in your throat? Do you feel tightness in your stomach? And then what happens with that? What do you do with that? Is your reaction to try and move away from that? Is your reaction to try and run? Some people like to get up and eat when they're going through that kind of stuff. And I threw my notes on the floor, so you're going to have to excuse me while I pick them up. I'm going to show you the beautiful woods behind me. There you go. And, again, what happens when you do live video? So what do do you feel it? Do you feel these emotions in your body? Or do you feel the reaction in your mind? Does your head start to race? Does your mind start shooting out thoughts and ideas really quickly, and can you not control the roaming thoughts? And if you can't get to a space where you can even navigate and be comfortable with sitting in your own body while this stuff is going on, then my invitation to you is to get up and walk around and to allow some of that energy to dispel, to let it disperse from your body, and then to go back when you're in a place where you're quiet and you're in a place where you're all by yourself, and start to ask yourself, how do I feel about what's going on? How do I feel about my prognosis? How do I feel about coughing while I'm doing a Facebook Live video? Hi, Michelle. Thanks for joining today. How do I feel about this stuff? And then to really sit quietly and to witness what's going on, and that's really the beginning of it. To really start to watch what happens for you. Because until you can sit quietly in your body and allow those feelings or those thoughts to exist, it's really hard to be able to allow the feelings to exist in regular general life. So giving yourself permission to sit still and to invite those feelings in, and asking yourself the question, how do I feel about my diagnosis? And then once you figure out where those questions are being answered in your body, again, is it your throat? Is it your chest? Do you feel claustrophobic? Then invite yourself to breathe into those feelings, to invite yourself to just sit still. Count to 20 and sit still and just let those feelings exist in you. And you'll find that you're really not going to crumble. You're really not going to crush. You're not going to fall apart. You're not going to shake. And that's the invitation. That's how you start to let those negative feelings be within your body. And once you can sit with them and be with them, that's when you get to start to be able to navigate through them. And again, like I said, until you can start to deal with those negative feelings and you can start to allow those emotions to be in there, it's really difficult to survive and then to move beyond the survival part into the thriving part of your life. So I guess the moral of this process is we don't get to survive cancer or any kind of traumatic, life-changing, catastrophic event by stuffing our emotions and pretending that it didn't happen and walking through life thinking that I'm immune to this or I'm somehow going to rise above this. The only way to really navigate the process and to stop the stories from repeating and to stop the perpetuation of the problem is to deal with the problem. And we can only do that by sitting still. So in my experience, the surviving process, the way I firmly believe that a big portion of my ability to stay on the planet and to not have recurrence has been a willingness to walk into the things that have caused me problems, to walk into the things that have caused the stress, to face the fears, to face the uncertainty, to challenge the things that I've been taught, and to question, how do I really feel about this? And is this how I want to feel? Is this feeling making me feel better or worse? And when I pull on this thought, is this making me feel better or worse? When I repeat this story, is that making me feel better or worse? And then I can start to make conscious choices. I can start to choose different thoughts. I can start to choose what I want to interact with and play with. So that is the end of episode 47 of All About Spirit's Life After Cancer. And I want to thank you for joining today. And I'm going to tell you that next week I'm going to be actually for the next 2 weeks, I'm going to be on vacation, and I don't know for sure whether I'll have coverage to be able to do the show. So we will find out if I have coverage or not as I am out and about. I'll try and keep you posted and let you know if there'll be a live show or not next week. And again, I'll remind you that I am collecting the stories of people who have survived cancer themselves or people who help people who have survived cancer. And if you want to share your story with me, you can do that at 1000 Cancer Survivors at allaboutspirit.com. And I want to thank you for joining today, and I hope you make it a great day. Thanks. Bye-bye.